For centuries, in art and literature, Mary Magdalene has been depicted as the repentant sinner, the woman who washed Jesus' feet with her tears and dried them with her hair. But with the new discoveries of Nag Hammadi, a radically different and far more controversial picture of Mary is emerging. In these texts, Mary appears very frequently as one of Jesus' prominent disciples. And in one of the Nag Hammadi documents, in a text attributed to another of Jesus' apostles, there's an even more striking revelation. In a relatively unknown work, the Gospel of Philip, Mary Magdalene plays a key role, and it is implied within that Gospel that her relationship with Jesus wasn't just spiritual. Along with all the other Nag Hammadi works, the Gospel of Philip is now housed in the Coptic Museum in Cairo. The text has been translated and studied by Stephen Emmel. Tell me about the Gospel of Philip.
Well, one of the most interesting things about the Gospel of Philip is a peculiar insight that it gives us into the relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Of course, there's some information about Mary Magdalene in the New Testament Gospels, especially in relationship to her being a witness of the resurrection. But there's very little said there about her relationship with Jesus. In the Gospel of Philip, there's a passage which suggests quite explicitly that they may have had a kind of intimate physical relationship based on a special love between them.
Well, what does this text reveal?
Well, this is the passage here. It begins with a reference specifically to Maria to Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, and then it says, "The Savior loved her more than all the disciples."
But there's a suggestion of an even more intimate connection. During their long burial in the desert, some of the books were attacked by ants. In the Gospel of Philip, the ants made a hole in a very crucial place. This gap has tantalized scholars for decades.
Then comes the crucial sentence. He kissed her on her, and at this point there's a hole in the manuscript. So we have to use our knowledge of Coptic grammar, and I'm inclined to think that the most likely restoration in this case is that he kissed her on her mouth many times.
It's a revelation which has fired the imaginations of scholars and popular authors alike. Does this indicate that Christ is having a physical relationship with Mary Magdalene?
Well, that's one way that one could perhaps interpret the text. After all, if you take kissing on the mouth as part of an intimate sexual relationship, one could draw that conclusion. There's another way to understand the passage, however, whatever the historical reality is. Kissing was sometimes presented as a way of transferring spiritual knowledge in a most intimate fashion, not so much because it was lip to lip, but rather spirit to spirit, spirit as breath.
The breath of God.
Exactly.
And he breathed upon them.
Yeah. Our breath is our life, and through kissing we share breath and therefore are sharing our most intimate and essential being. And so it's maybe suggesting that Jesus here is communicating a special level of wisdom and knowledge to Mary.
Do you think that really happened?
I think we can't possibly know whether Jesus ever kissed Mary, but I would say in the context of a movement like that, with a very tight inner circle of disciples and a highly revered charismatic teacher, that it's not completely out of the question that there would have been demonstrations of fondness through physical contact. I wouldn't exclude it as a possibility.
Any suggestion of a sexual relationship between Mary Magdalene and Jesus is something the Church has always frowned upon. And yet for me the idea really isn't so shocking. Why shouldn't Jesus have had an intimate relationship with a woman? Whatever the truth about Jesus and Mary's physical relationship, the Gospel of Philip clearly suggests they shared a strong spiritual connection. and it undermines the traditional view in the New Testament Gospels that Peter was the favorite disciple of Jesus. The contents of Philip are so controversial, it's easy to dismiss them as an aberration. But in fact, there's another lost gospel which also portrays Mary in a different light. In 1897, two British archaeologists started excavating the ancient rubbish dumps of the Egyptian town of Oxyrhynchus. They uncovered nearly 50,000 fragments of papyrus, some of them over 1,500 years old. Amongst this mountain of texts, one scrap was initially overlooked. But on closer examination, its true significance emerged. It was the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, a text scholars hadn't even known existed.